What's poppin', my chili dogs? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. This is about to be a breakdown for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the one where Sonic gets the ring slapped out of him by Keanu Reeves in spectacular fashion. This is legit one of my favorite movies of 2024, so let's just get into this dang thing, my nerd babies. The movie starts off immediately with the Easter egg that is Prison Island, located in this movie universe in Tokyo Bay, Japan. Prison Island was first introduced in the absolute banger of a video game classic that is Sonic Adventure 2, and it's a facility owned by Gun, the guardian unit of nations that video game Dr. Robotnik would break into in order to locate his grandfather Gerald Robotnik's ultimate weapon, not knowing that this ultimate weapon would be Shadow the Hedgehog. A hot topic ass hedgehog with the power of speed and immortality on his side. And somebody better call Al Sharpton or the ACLU, because after Shadow was freed by Robotnik in the video game, the agents of Gun would pull a racism and accidentally arrest Sonic the Hedgehog and throw him in a prison island cell just because he was a hedgehog of color that matched Shadow's description. I can't believe it. Profiling. In my America. So, this island showing up in the very first shot of this movie is this movie's first major indication that director Jeff Fowler and his team were taking Sonic Adventure 2 as major inspiration for this film, as Sonic Adventure 2 is of course where Shadow made his first debut. A Gun agent named Kyle watches Shadow sleep inside of his glass tube prison while eating a box of fresh donuts, with donuts being a major recurring food in this movie trilogy due to Sonic's white dad Tom, being known as Donut Lord, and because donuts look like rings, which is what the Sonic series is all about. And after sleeping for 50 years since 1974, Shadow begins to stir as he has dreams of his first and only friend, Maria Robotnik, playing a song on her guitar, with that song being Crush 40's Live and Learn, a song that fans of 2001's Sonic Adventure 2 know very well as it served as the main theme song of the game. A star sticker can also be seen on Maria's guitar, a theme that would follow Maria every time she appears in the film, like when she first arrives at her grandfather's lab holding a cardboard box with stars on it, and how her bedroom had stars on the walls and on her dresser, and also the stars that she hung up at the top of her tent that she watched movies with Shadow in. This star theme is significant because it serves as an overall cosmic theme for Shadow the Hedgehog himself and ties into his overall chaos energy power set. Later on in the film, when we get the flashback of Shadow and Maria looking at the stars together, Shadow says the words, "The light shines even though the star is gone," when the two talk about the science of light travel. This is my favorite quote in the movie as it embodies Shadow the Hedgehog perfectly, mostly because Shadow's powers seem to be linked to the almost limitless cosmic power of black holes, which we know are the remnants of dead stars. When Shadow gained companionship for the very first time in his life when he met Maria, Shadow became a being filled with the light of love, a symbolic star. However, when Maria died, Shadow let the pain of that loss change his heart from one of light to one of darkness and shadow, symbolically turning Shadow himself into a dead star or a black hole, an immensely powerful celestial object that seeks to destroy anything that tries to come close, which is basically what Shadow does throughout the entire film whenever Team Sonic tries to relate with him, and also why his main mission is the destruction of the entire planet, something that black holes are known to do across the cosmos. Even Shadow's chaos energy powers in this movie are black hole based, as we can see the most clearly when Shadow infuses his own orange chaos energy into that black hole grenade that almost swallows up Team Sonic later on in the movie. And because black holes have been long used in science fiction as a possible means of long distance and possibly interdimensional travel, this would also explain why Shadow is able to use his black hole chaos energy powers to teleport around with ease. And not only this, but because of these black hole powers, Shadow is also able to manipulate gravity to a slight extent, which is what Shadow would use later on in order to drive his motorcycle up that Japanese building without falling over. When Gun was experimenting on Shadow all those years ago, they were specifically trying to harness his energy for themselves for the purposes of global security, which is why I believe the scene of Gun using variable gravity on Team Sonic and Team Robotnik was included in this movie, to to subtly show how Gunn has benefited from Gerald Robotnik's research into Shadow. That black hole grenade that Shadow used was also likely another gun weapon that Old Man Gerald created from Shadow's chaos energy. But also check out this picture that astronomers took of a black hole far off in space real quick. Doesn't this bright orange ring formed by the black hole's accretion disk look a lot like something familiar in this movie? Like, I don't know, say Shadow's two orange eyeballs that glow whenever he uses his chaos energy powers? Like, director Jeff Fowler truly went off with the visual cosmic symbolism in this movie, because that is actually genius to connect Shadow's eye color to black holes, man. And on top of this, despite not being orange, even the two key cards that Gunn made in order to activate Gerald's Eclipse cannon seem to be designed after black holes as well, which is quite fun. Now, definitely keep Gunn's obsession with harnessing alien energies in mind for later, because we are definitely going to be talking about that when we chat about the arrival of Metal Sonic in the post-credit scene, because I believe we might be able to solve where Metal Sonic even came from by thinking about this. But a little bit more on that later. Anyways, since Shadow is supposed to symbolically embody a dead star after his tragic loss, his transition into the bright yellow Super Shadow after finally opening up to Sonic symbolizes Shadow reclaiming the inner light of friendship and connection that he lost, becoming the shining star that Maria always saw him as, because the light still shines even though the star is gone. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Shadow's containment tube begins to fail thanks to Gerald Robotnik hacking Gunn's security systems, and when he does so, Dr. Eggman's logo flashes on the screen, with this logo actually making its debut in 2010's Sonic Colors video game. Shadow then awakens and kicks the asses of all the Gun guards with ease, even hitting this last one with a Shoryuken uppercut that would make both Ken and Ryu from Street Fighter proud. And after securing his freedom, Shadow then heads straight for mainland Japan as he uses his air shoes to glide across the surface of the water with ease. And just a quick note, it's not the air shoes that make Shadow the Hedgehog run fast. He's actually just naturally fast on his own. The air shoes just help him do cool shit like fly and stuff. Then the movie hits us with the title screen for Sonic the Hedgehog 3, with the logo of this movie being a reference to the logo found in Sonic Adventure 2. And after this, we catch up with Team Sonic as the Wachowski family has a relaxing day out in nature. And as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles line up for a race, Tails flicks his tails together to form his two-tailed logo that he plasters all over his inventions and whatnot. And Sonic enters the movie eating a chili dog, his favorite food item of all time ever since February 1992 in the Sonic the Hedgehog story Bible. That's when we learn that Sonic used to be a delivery boy for his Uncle Chuck, who used to own his own chili dog restaurant. But anyways, when the race begins, Sonic starts acting like his own race announcer, calling himself the Blue Blur, one of Sonic the Hedgehog's most popular nicknames for decades. Then we get a Superman reference when Sonic says it's a bird, it's a plane, before hitting us with the Air Jordan pose and running past a goal sign, just like Sonic does at the end of every stage in his games. But waiting at the finish line for him are holograms of Knuckles and Tails, with the both of them tapping their feet like video game Sonic does when the player leaves him idle for a while. And after Sonic realizes that they're just both holograms, we hear the Sonic the Hedgehog stage clear music play in the background as he does a victory dance by himself in the forest like the humble blue king that he is. And when Sonic heads back to the campsite, he is greeted to an Earth-based surprise party from his family, celebrating an entire year of having Sonic in their lives. They all eat, drink, and be furry before Sonic and Tom head down to Sonic's old cave that he used to live in when he first came to the planet. Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, can be seen on Sonic's wall atop a yellow and black checkerboard pattern that is meant to evoke the checkerboard pattern found in the Green Hill Zone level of the Sonic games. And not far from that is a hubcap for a Chevy, showing Sonic's affinity for fast cars, much like his red and blue toy race cars over here. Tom then discovers a picture that Sonic drew of himself with his old mother figure Longclaw the Owl back when he was on his old homeworld of Mobius, before Longclaw was tragically assassinated by Knuckles' tribe of echidnas. The name Mobius has never actually been said in the Sonic movies before when referring to Sonic's homeworld, but instead was established in the novelization for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But whether or not that stays canon is up to the actual filmmakers. But regardless, Sonic's homeworld is clearly modeled after the Sonic the Hedgehog stage Green Hill Zone, with all of its loop-de-loops and checkered patterns and whatnot. And while talking about Sonic's loss of Longclaw, Tom gives Sonic props for not letting that loss of his mother figure change who he is on the inside. teasing both Sonic and Shadow's main emotional struggle in this movie. I love Sonic 3 so much because it is very Star Wars in that way. Because much like Anakin when he lost Padme and his mother in the prequel trilogy, Sonic and Shadow's fearful and vengeful emotions towards the people that hurt their loved ones pulled them both towards the dark side in this movie. And when Shadow almost kills Tom outright later on in the movie, Sonic begins to lose himself in his quest for vengeance, that he starts to ignore the support of his friends in exchange for the power to protect the rest of his family by making Shadow and the Robotniks pay. Just like how Anakin sought the power of the dark side to prevent Padme from dying like his mom did. But in this foolish quest, Sonic starts to become the very thing that he swore to combat against. But luckily, he stops himself before he fully committed to walking Shadow's same dark path. And speaking of Shadow, when he arrives at the heart of Shibuya Crossing and takes a look at all the capitalism all around him, an ad for a movie called Chow in Space can be seen on Shibuya's iconic 109 department store. Chow in Space posters have been a running Star Wars gag of a parody in these Sonic the Hedgehog games since the adorable race of Chows were first created in Sonic Adventure 1. There was Chow in Space 1, Chow in Space 2, Chow in Space 3, Chow in Space, The Search for Tikal, and Chow in Space 2 again, Perfect Chaos Strikes Back. Shadow is then confronted by even more gun agents who he makes short work of yet again, leading gun director Rockwell to activate Team Sonic to stop him, with Kristen Ritter of Jessica Jones fame playing that character. It's so wild seeing both Jessica Jones and Cyclops share scenes together in this movie, knowing damn well that they're likely going to appear together in Avengers Secret Wars in some way. And fun fact, with the very first time the term Team Sonic was officially used in Sega's games was in 2003's Sonic Heroes. And when Team Sonic eventually jumps out of that helicopter to land at the scene of Shadow's destruction, we can even see the team entering their ascending flight formation chain from Sonic Heroes when Tails grabs Sonic and Sonic grabs Knuckles in midair. But before they actually jump out of that gun helicopter, Sonic mentions that he doesn't know if the situation on the ground is as calm as Hello Kitty or as terrifying as Godzilla, with those two properties famously being creations out of Japan. And I cannot forget to mention how Sonic says, "Talk about a low-budget flight, no food or movies, we're out of here," because that is exactly what Sonic said after jumping out of a gun aircraft at the start of Sonic Adventure 2.
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies, we're out of here. Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies.
And when the team lands at Shibuya Crossing and survey the area, one of the TV ads for something called Primal Venom can be seen, which in the Sonic lore is a flavor of Chaos Cola brand soda introduced in Sonic Adventure 2. Primal Venom is a reference to the primal entity Perfect Chaos after that entity attacked the city of Station Square in Sonic Adventure 1. But after Knuckles catches a gun vehicle thrown at the team, Shadow reveals himself to Team Sonic after climbing on top of another disabled gun vehicle, echoing his first appearance to Sonic in Sonic Adventure 2, where he stood on top of a disabled gun mech. Shadow then proceeds to use his Chaos powers to teleport around the gang and kick their asses in spectacular fashion like the world's ultimate weapon should, leaving Sonic struggling to get up, a moment that is actually a reference to Sonic fainting in front of Shadow during the opening cinematic to 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog video game. And like that video game, Shadow then hops onto a motorcycle with a gun to flee the scene, but Sonic is hot on his tail after him. And during Sonic's chase, we see him run across a Primal Venom advertisement on a truck before running past an advertisement for the item boxes from the Sonic video games. But then the two would use their insane powers to eventually race their way up the Tokyo Sky Tree in Sumida, Tokyo, with Shadow activating his Chaos Energy powers to give himself the variable gravity necessary for his motorcycle to ride vertically and give us the coolest Akira slide that I've ever seen. Like, hot damn, that was dope as hell. But you know what's not dope as hell? The entirety of Tokyo losing power all at once, which is exactly what happened after Sonic and Shadow collided with one another at full power above the Tokyo Sky Tree. The second time Sonic's powers would cause a power surge across the nation after Sonic did it by accident when he was sad in the first movie. Sonic then regains consciousness handcuffed with his own gun handcuffs after that surge of power, before saying the words 1.21 gigawatts, a clear reference to Doc Brown from the Back to the Future movies. Tails and Knuckles free him, and all three of them head to Chow Garden, a Chow-themed restaurant that also serves as a nod to the Chow Garden from the Sonic Adventure games, where players can raise their own little Chow babies. I spent hundreds of hours in the Sonic Adventure 2 Chow Garden as a kid because I'm not a deadbeat dad. But then again, it's been about like 20 years since I checked up on those chows, so yeah. I'm sure they're doing fine.
I learned how to drive, I learned how to shave, I learned how to fight without him. I had 14 great birthdays without him. He never even sent me a damn card.
The purple chow on the stage here is actually a reference to 2 past Sega games, as this chow's purple appearance is meant to look like the character Knights from the 1996 Sega Saturn game Nights into Dreams, with the sombrero maraca outfit on that chow being a nod to the monkey character Amigo from the 2000 Sega game Samba de Amigo. And one of the kids at the restaurant then approaches Tails and asks him if he is Detective Pikachu, a reference to the Detective Pikachu video games, as well as the 2019 movie starring Ryan Reynolds. This reference is actually pretty significant here because it might just rule out the possibility of a Super Smash Bros. Cinematic crossover universe with Nintendo properties down the line, something that fans of both Sonic and Mario movies hopes could happen in the future. It's like, since Pokemon already exists in this universe as a piece of fiction, the chances of Pokemon coming to life here are pretty slim. But then again, Keanu Reeves is the voice of Shadow the Hedgehog in this movie, despite Sonic the Hedgehog having watched Keanu Reeves in the 1994 movie Speed in the first Sonic film. So things seem to be pretty flexible in this universe, so who knows. But anyways, Commander Walters then joins Team Sonic at their table and tells them Shadow's backstory. You know, like how he came to Earth in the form of a meteorite that crash landed in Oklahoma. This differs from Shadow's origin in Sonic Adventure 2, which saw Shadow being the creation of Gerald Robotnik specifically, as here Shadow is straight up an alien with no memory of where he came from. The meteorite that Shadow emerged from 50 years in the past bears a strong resemblance to the Black Comet from 2005's Shadow the Hedgehog video game. And in that video game universe, the dark entity Black Doom lived inside of this comet with his legion of dark monsters called the Black Arbs. And it's a comet that would apparently pass by Earth every 50 years, the same amount of years since Shadow first arrived in the movie universe. And in the video games, one of the times the Black Comet passed by Earth, Black Doom would give a piece of his own dark DNA to old man Gerald Robotnik so that he could create the ultimate life form. And in Gerald's efforts to do so, he would end up creating a monster of a failed prototype called the Bio Lizard, a huge salamander monster that would eventually be freed from its gun containment to do battle with Team Sonic in Sonic Adventure 2. The monster movie called Beware the Alien Freak that we see Shadow and Maria watching during a later montage includes this Bio Lizard monster as an Easter egg. And I have a feeling that this Project Shadow facility that Shadow and Maria live together in is also based in Oklahoma as well, built right under the impact site of the meteorite. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but later on in the movie, when Shadow first arrives back at the abandoned site, we can actually see a crater near the center of the mountain that could potentially point to this. But anyways, after Commander Walters tells Team Sonic about Shadow's tragic backstory, he is immediately assassinated by a vengeful Gerald Robotnik while using his grandson's flying egg drones, with Walters using his last breath to give Sonic one of the Eclipse Cannon keycards to keep safe. But before Team Sonic could be annihilated next, they are saved by the GOAT of the Sonic trilogy himself, Agent Stone, who gets Team Sonic to follow him all the way to Dr. Robotnik's hidden subaquatic mecha crab, a robotic crab based on video game Robotnik's much smaller crab meat robots. In the canon prequel comic to the second Sonic movie, white crab meat robots that look like smaller mecha crabs appear. So this mecha crab's origins pretty much come from that comic. And inside that crab is Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik watching actor Cristo Fernandez playing the roles of both Juan and Pablo in the in-universe telenovela called La Última Pasión, echoing how Jim Carrey himself would play both Ivo and Gerald Robotnik in this movie. Cristo Fernandez is of course no stranger to playing duplicates himself, as he did so in 2024's Venom: The Last Dance when he played both the MCU and Sony variants of a bartender. Agent Stone then informs his boss that there is an Eggman imposter among us, forcing an out-of-shape but more video game accurate round Robotnik to leap back into action, but not without first getting a much-needed haircut from Agent Stone. Agent Stone actor Lee Majdoub actually did cut Jim Carrey's real hair during the following scene, hair that Jim Carrey had been personally growing out for a year and a half. And after his haircut, we get a shout out to the 1974 spy novel Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, when Eggman calls Stone his Tinker Tailor and asks him to make alterations to his suit. We then see Shadow looking over the remains of the abandoned Project Shadow facility and having flashbacks to his time with Maria, played by actress actress Alila Brown. And when Maria is moving in, we can see her wearing a blue outfit reminiscent of the one that Maria wears in the Sonic Adventure and Shadow the Hedgehog games. She then skates her way to Shadow's containment tube and draws a picture of the Sonic character Pocky the Rabbit on that tube, as Pocky used to rock a bow tie in the 90s. Team Sonic and Team Robotnik show up at the facility not long after Shadow snaps back to the present, with Knuckles expressing fear at the possibility of the facility being haunted, a personality trait of Knuckles that is very video game accurate, as Knuckles has been afraid of ghosts since Sonic Adventure 2. We even see Knuckles freak out when watching Casper the Friendly Ghost during a quick flashback sequence, which I found hilarious. The group then splits up and Sonic comes across Maria's old tent, with a shattered picture of Shadow and Maria inside that tent. The point of impact on the glass of the broken picture frame appears above Maria in that picture, a subtle nod to how Maria was actually shot instead of exploded in the video games. Meanwhile, Dr. Robotnik is reunited with the egg drones that were hacked earlier on in the movie, only to be unexpectedly reunited with his grandfather Gerald Robotnik as Gerald sings The Way We Were by Barbra Streisand during his entrance. This differs greatly from Sonic Adventure 2, which saw Gerald Robotnik executed decades prior to his plans for world destruction that were actually fully realized, as he would actually brainwash Shadow into doing all of that for him after he died. And man, it is so great seeing Jim Carrey play both of these characters because he does so incredibly flawlessly. So much so that I always forget that there aren't actually two Jim Carreys walking around on set. And back when he was doing promo for Sonic 2, Jim Carrey actually said that he was thinking about retiring from acting completely and likely would not be back for a Sonic 3 unless the Angels were to bring some sort of script written in gold ink that says to me that it's going to be really important for people to see. End quote. That's what Jim Carrey said. And as a hilarious response to this, the producers for Sonic 3 would oblige him by literally printing out the script for the movie in 24-karat ink, leading to Carrey to sign back onto the sequel. However, if Jim Carrey did not agree to come back, the production was adamant that they would not recast his role for future Sonic movies, as Carrey's work was far too iconic to be replaced. Falling in love with his grandpa, Iva would immediately betray Sonic to team up with Grandpa Gerald and Shadow. Gerald then reveals to the team that he plans on using the keycard to unlock Gun's Eclipse Cannon, a Death Star of a Doomsday weapon that made its first appearance in Sonic Adventure 2 as the main laser of Gerald Robotnik's Space Colony arc. Apparently, Gun allowed Gerald Robotnik to go free if he spent his remaining time imprisoned making them a freaking Doomsday laser using Shadow's powers, and they did so exactly to Gerald's specifications, which kind of makes you wonder just how far Gun is planning to go in the name of global security, because making a planet-destroying laser that harnesses alien bioelectricity is kind of a wild thing to do with taxpayer money. But now that we're on the subject of Gun's secret dealings with Gerald Robotnik, I think now would be a great time to talk about this movie's mid-credit scene, which sees Sonic being confronted by a legion of Metal Sonic robots before being saved by the glowing pink hammer of Amy Rose. With Amy Rose, of course, being Sonic's #1 fan in the video game series, because she simply cannot stop loving this man. She just loves him to death in a very creepy way. In this movie, we've seen Gun harness Shadow's powers to create not only this Eclipse Cannon, but also the Chaos Energy guns that exploded those Chaos Energy power cells that got Maria killed. Then decades later in the first Sonic movie, as well as the Knuckles TV show, we saw how gun scientists like Ivo Robotnik and the Buyer used the power in Sonic and Knuckles' quills to power various weaponized mechs. I mean, hell, I would not be surprised if those blue energy guns that Gun fired at Shadow when he was escaping at the beginning of the film were made with the data that Gun collected from Eggman's work with Sonic's energy when he was working with them. This all being said, the way I see it, Metal Sonic's arrival in this mid-credit scene seems to deeply imply that Metal Sonic was made by Gun themselves, with Dr. Gerald Robotnik's help. And it's a robot that is going around collecting the energies from non-human aliens like Sonic and his friends in order to become the ultimate weapon, something that Gun hoped that Shadow would be for them until they realized that they could not control him. When Metal Sonic fires his weapon at Sonic in that mid-credit scene, notice how the explosion explodes with blue and pink energy, energies associated with both Sonic and Amy Rose respectively. I have a feeling that this Metal Sonic may have already absorbed the energies of both Sonic and Amy sometime in their past and is looking to absorb more from Sonic and his allies in order to become the most powerful entity imaginable, a motivation that would echo the Metal Sonic in 2004's Sonic Heroes. In that game, Metal Sonic would ultimately betray his creator Dr. Eggman to duplicate the biodata of all of Sonic's allies and enemies, with the goal of evolving itself into a higher being, a being known as Metal Overlord. And judging by the way that Metal Sonic arrives just like the T-800 did in Terminator 2, I'm also willing to bet that Sonic 4 is going to take even more inspiration from the Terminator franchise by having Metal Sonic hail from an alternate timeline where Gunn's Metal Sonic program became sentient and started a robo-apocalypse Skynet style, with Amy Rose following Metal Sonic from that alternate timeline in order to stop Metal Sonic from destroying Sonic and dooming the world. But that's just my theory, of course, and it's a theory supported by a recent rumor from Daniel RPK on Twitter that suggests that Sonic 4 will be incorporating time travel elements into its story, something that would be especially fitting for the characters of both Metal Sonic and Amy Rose, as 1993's Sonic CD was the time travel heavy Sonic game that both these characters first appeared in. So I would definitely expect a Terminator-esque Sonic 4 inspired heavily by both Sonic CD and Sonic Heroes, with a Metal Sonic likely created by Gunn and Gerald Robotnik, which definitely sounds like a fun time to me. But anyway, Shadow then activates a Chaos Energy black hole before fleeing the scene with the Robotniks, but Team Sonic managed to escape before the black hole sucked up the entire Project Shadow facility. And wanting to spend more time with his grandpa, the two enter a virtual reality simulation of a place called Eggman Land, which is the name of Dr. Robotnik's evil empire in the Sonic games, and actually feature prominently in 2008's Sonic Unleashed. But while Agent Stone becomes jealous of Ivo's grandpa, Team Sonic head back home to the Wachowskis, with that scene starting with a piano rendition of the Green Hill Zone musical theme from the Sonic games. After Sonic asks for Tom and Maddie's help with retrieving the second keycard from Gunn's London headquarters, Maddie uses Tails' hologram to recommend that Sonic use the Master Emerald to go supersonic like he did at the end of the second movie. And when she does, the competition mode character select menu from 2017's Sonic Mania can be seen super briefly. But Sonic reminds Maddie that he and Knuckles swore to never use that power for themselves again, and decide to go with Tails' infiltration plan instead. A plan that has Knuckles standing atop Big Ben, Tails atop the 20 Fenchurch Street walkie-talkie skyscraper, and an impatient Sonic atop the London Eye Ferris wheel, with those three landmarks reflecting the characters themselves. I mean, Knuckles has the big muscles, so he gets Big Ben, Tails is the gadget guy, so he gets the walkie-talkie shaped building, and Sonic rolls around in a ball endlessly like the London Eye, so it's perfect symbolism. Tom and Maddie successfully infiltrate Gunn and hack into their systems, but so do the Robotniks, leading to Sonic having to rush to Gunn headquarters, but not before stopping by the iconic Beatles crossing at Abbey Road, the Shaftesbury Memorial Fountain, and Buckingham Palace. And while inside Buckingham Palace, Sonic mentions Hogwarts from the Harry Potter series while briefly borrowing the crown jewels of the kingdom, the scepter with Dove, and the robe of state. And when Sonic makes it inside of Gunn headquarters, he grabs a top-secret gun file of Dr. Robotnik to read while sipping a mug that says, "License to Spill," a nod towards the James Bond franchise. However, pretty much as soon as Sonic gets there, he and the Robotniks are captured by Gunn's variable gravity field. And as the Robotniks lay on the ground, Tom makes fun of their colorful spandex, a nod to James Marsden's line in the very first X-Men movie when Cyclops asks if Logan preferred colored spandex for the X-Men team instead.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
When sensing an emergency, Knuckles would then crash on in and smash the controls of the gravity room, almost leading to Tom getting impaled by some loose rubble. But despite Tom surviving that, Tom just can't catch a break because soon after this, he would be punched full force in the chest by Shadow the Hedgehog while being disguised as Commander Walters. Shadow then takes the keycard from Tom's crippled body and teleports to the Eclipse Cannon orbiting the Earth after that cannon rose from the River Thames near the Tower Bridge. The interior of the Eclipse Cannon is designed similarly to the interior of the Space Colony Ark from Sonic Adventure 2, which I thought was a nice touch. And to power up the cannon itself, Shadow focuses on his loneliness after his loss and uses that energy of his anger to run around the cannon's core, echoing how a sad and lonely Sonic ran across the baseball field in the first movie. Sonic, losing himself in his rage, then confronts Tom and Knuckles' best friend Wade, who Knuckles chose to guard the Master Emerald with his life. Wade is actually wearing a jersey for Green Hills Junior Hockey League, with with the jersey's primary colors being blue and orange, colors that both Sonic and Shadow radiate, respectively, in this movie. Earlier, when Sonic is camping with his family, a similar blue and orange color theme can be seen on the Wachowskis' tent as well. But anyways, Sonic yoinks the Master Emerald from Wade, taps into his supersonic mode, and flies right through the Eclipse Cannon just to fight Shadow, completely ignoring the Doomsday weapon entirely just to exact his revenge. Shadow then uses his raw, immense power to knock the power of the Master Emerald out of Sonic into the 7 colored Chaos Emeralds that the Master Emerald is made out of. But when Sonic goes to access that power again, he sees that Shadow has now also gained the power of the Emerald, becoming Super Shadow, just like the ending of Sonic Adventure 2. Powered up once more, Sonic does his best Superman impression circa Man of Steel when he hits Shadow repeatedly across the sky as the camera follows tightly behind. The two eventually find themselves at the Temple of Poseidon in Greece before Sonic punches Shadow to the moon for talking smack about his white dad. However, before Sonic can deliver the killing blow on Shadow, he remembers what his white dad told him about not letting loss change who he is, and decides to spare Shadow instead, reminding Shadow that the love of our loved ones stick around with us long after they're gone. A revelation that causes Shadow to reignite that light of love that was reduced to embers all this time, becoming the star that Maria always saw him to be. Now determined to stop Gerald together, Sonic and Shadow enter their super forms yet again and fly towards the Eclipse Cannon while Crush 40's Live and Learn blares in the background in proper Sonic Adventure 2 style. And boy, when I was in the theater, I was hype as hell because my inner child self loved that freaking song. Like, never in my days did I ever think that I would ever see Super Sonic and Super Shadow team up together in live action on the big screen. But I did, and it was awesome, and even better than the team up from Sonic Adventure 2. Meanwhile, inside the Eclipse Cannon, Ivo, now wearing his video game accurate suit, fights his grandfather once he realizes what Gerald has planned for the world, ridiculing Gerald's big metal nanotech hand in the process, comparing it to the big giant green fist that Ryan Reynolds makes in the dumpster fire that is 2011's Green Lantern film. And sensing Sonic and Shadow on their way, Gerald sends drones after them that were modeled after the Gun Hunter robots from Sonic Adventure 2. But after a super fun team-up sequence in space, Sonic and Shadow make short work of the drones before posing next to each other, just like the two do at the very end of the Sonic Adventure 2 intro cinematic. And later on during the space battle, we see Super Shadow turn a bunch of his quills into a giant bright yellow sun before shooting them towards the drones, symbolically showing how Shadow has truly become the light once again. And speaking of stars, Gerald eventually pushes his grandson out of a hole in the Eclipse Cannon designed after a star, his dead granddaughter's favorite symbol. But Ivo would be saved by Tails before using Sonic's quill to zap Gerald into the Eclipse Cannon's power generator, wiping him out from the universe like a bug. However, with the cannon still about to fire on the planet, Sonic tells Shadow to follow me towards the Eclipse Cannon so that they could work together to block the laser fire from hitting Earth, just like they worked together at the end of Sonic Adventure 2 to destroy Gerald's laser. Sonic saying "follow me" is a reference to the song Escape from the City from the beginning of Sonic Adventure 2, as the words "follow me" repeat throughout that song. And after successfully defending the Earth from that laser, Dr. Eggman, Knuckles, and Tails accidentally blow up a chunk of the moon, something that Eggman does on purpose in Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic then loses consciousness and begins to fall towards the planet, leading Knuckles and Tails to go save him, while Shadow removes his limiter rings so he can use his full power to push the Eclipse Cannon far enough away from the planet to explode. But before it does, Ivo hijacks every TV in the world, just like Video Game Robotnik does in Sonic Adventure 2. But instead of threatening the planet like Video Game Robotnik does, he says goodbye to his bestie Agent Stone instead, potentially leaving the Sonic franchise in a blaze of glory. But just like I brought up in my Sonic 3 Ending Explained video, if the post-credit scene of this movie shows a Shadow the Hedgehog alive and well following this explosion, then there is a chance that he saved Ivo Robotnik as well. But that pretty much all depends on whether or not Jim Carrey wants to sign up for Sonic 4 or not. And of course, with the day now saved, Team Sonic then goes on another day out to nature before they have another race with each other. A race that ends with Sonic being confronted by Metal Sonic at New York State Park, teasing a possible change in setting for Sonic 4, a movie that I cannot wait for because I am so damn curious to see how these cosmic energies factor into the overall lore moving forward. Jeff Fowler and his team have got to go fast to deliver us Sonic 4 ASAP because I do not think I can wait till 2027. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. You guys can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Blue Sky, wherever I am on the internet. But most importantly, follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button and maybe even hitting that like button if you guys enjoyed the video. But like always, I love you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Your time is very valuable to me, and I love you guys times a million, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.